Hare Krishna. Welcome to the daily morning Srimad Bhagavatam class at Sri Sri Radha Kalachanjidam. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Shila Prabhupada ki jai, Granthara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. We are continuing our reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 8. We're going to do chapter 18. Text 21. Text 20. 20 all the way to the end of the chapter. So this is chapter 18, Canto 8. Before we start, please repeat. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We can do the prayers together. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayet. Before reciting this Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead Narayana, unto Naranarayana Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadev, the author. Nashtaprayeshu bhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naishtiki. By regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam and by rendering of service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Utapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakanvitamsha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyasya Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Namam Vishnupadaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. So this is again Canto 8, Chapter 18, Lord Vamanadeva, the dwarf incarnation. That's the title of the chapter. We'll do from text 20 all the way to 32, I believe. So let's get started with translation for text 20. And then we'll come back to text 20 because that's our focus verse for today.
When the Lord heard that Bali Maharaj was performing Ashvamedha sacrifice under the patronage of Brahmanas belonging to the Brigu dynasty, the Supreme Lord, who is full of every aspect, proceeded there to show his mercy to Bali Maharaj. By his weight, he pushed down the earth with every step.
So this is Vamanadev, and Vamanadev is how old now? Do you know? He just appeared. The section before this was the appearance of Vamanadev, and he appeared as the son of Kashyapa and Aditi. And when he was born, this is very similar to how Krishna appeared. He appeared in his blackish form with this conch shell disc and everything. And then he transformed himself into a dwarf, a 5-year-old boy. And then his sacred thread ceremony just happened, and several demigods gave so many different paraphernalia to him. And at that point is when this section starts. He knows that there is this sacrifice that Bali Maharaj is doing, and then he's going to go there. And this 5-year-old boy, it says, when he's walking, is every step pushed down the earth. This is the Supreme Lord. This is what Prabhupada would always say. Krishna is always Krishna. He can be a baby, he can be a fish, he can be a tortoise. The Supreme Lord is always the Supreme Lord. Okay, we'll come back to more in this verse. Text 21.
Text 21. While engaged in performing the sacrifice in the field known as Bharaghukacha on the northern bank of the Narmada river, the Brahmanical priest, the descendants of Bhraghu, so Vamanadev, to be like the sun rising nearby.
Yes. Does any verse come to mind when you hear of this description of Vamanadev walking in like a sun rising nearby? This famous one.
O king, because
Okay,
of Vamanadev.
Jashna, we're in conversation, right? Huh? Do you remember the verse? I was asking something. I'll let you read. Yes? Yes. This is Srimad Bhagavatam, right? Krishne swadhamo bhagate dharma jnana dibissaha kalau nashta drishamesha puranarko nudotitaha. This is Srimad Bhagavatam. Krishna is like the sun, and we have the acharyas constantly compare Krishna to the sun, which is the closest we can to this world, because the sun shines everywhere, but is the sun affected by it? No, because the sun shines on pus and urine and stool and everything, and it purifies it, but at the same time the sun is unaffected. In so many different ways, the acharyas compare the Lord to the sun, and Srimad Bhagavatam is the Lord himself in Kali Yuga, coming to dispel the darkness of Kali Yuga. Because when Krishna disappeared, dharma and jnana also went with him. Religious principles and knowledge also went with Krishna. So the question by the sages was this, right? This is how it starts, that now that Krishna has left the planet, whom should we take shelter of? And the answer to that is Srimad Bhagavatam. Right? Now that Krishna has left, but he's come in the form of Srimad Bhagavatam, which is like the rising brilliant sun that can dispel the ignorance of Kali Yuga. So this is Vamanadev, a 5-year-old boy. When entering, he is as bright as the sun. Yes. Now you can read.
O king, because of Vamanadev's bright effulgence, the priests, along with Bali Maharaj and all the members of the assembly, were robbed of their splendor. Thus they began to ask one another whether the sun god himself, Sanat Kumar, or fire god, or the fire god had personally come to see the sacrificial ceremony.
This is significant because these Brahmanas had a role to play on where Bali Maharaj is currently. You know what is the position of Bali Maharaj now, right now, when we're reading this? Yeah, he's the king of all the 3 planetary systems. He has defeated the demigods, but it didn't happen by chance. He was actually killed in the battlefield. And Shukracharya, who is his spiritual master, brought him back from the dead. And he is the descendant of Bhrigu. That's why in all these verses it's been constantly referring to Bhrigu dynasty. And all the Brahmanas actually helped Bali Maharaj achieve this position. And these were no ordinary Brahmanas, right? For you to actually make somebody the king of heaven, you need to be pretty powerful. And yet, when the Lord entered, those Brahmanas felt completely like, who is this person? These were really effulgent people, right? You need to have these Brahmanical qualities and some amount of purity for you to actually do things like this. And yet they felt completely like robbed of all their splendor. When Vamandev entered the assembly, they felt like, who is this person? And they were figuring out who this could be. Yes.
While the priests of the Bhrigu dynasty and their disciples talked and argued in various ways, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vamanadev, holding in his hands the rod, the umbrella, and a water pot full of water, entered the arena of the Ashvamedha sacrifice.
Yes. This is the typical vision or the picture that we see of Vamanadev, right? This is a small boy holding a danda, an umbrella, and a water pot in his hand, and he's entered the assembly. Yes, please continue.
Appearing as a Brahmin boy wearing a belt of straw, a sacred thread, an upper garment of deerskin, and matted locks of hair, Lord Vamanadev entered the arena of sacrifice. His brilliant effulgence diminished the brilliance of all the priests and their disciples, who thus stood from their seats and welcomed the Lord properly by offering obeisances.
Yes. And what is this effulgence of the Lord? Yeah. This is the Brahma Jyoti, right? It's really powerful.
Text 26. Bali Maharaj, jubilant at seeing Lord Vamanadev, whose beautiful limbs contributed equally to the beauty of his entire body, offered him a seat with great satisfaction.
This is another incredible feature of the Lord, actually. We see this in the appearance of Varahadev also. How did Varahadev appear? Does anybody remember? Yeah, from the nostrils of Lord Brahma, right? This small boar appeared. And everybody is figuring out, who is this? Who is this? Do you know how they actually figure out this is Lord Vishnu himself? No? They saw his eyes and it was like these beautiful lotus eyes. Even a boar. Krishna was beautiful. This is the beauty of Krishna. They saw and he was becoming bigger in size, right? He initially came out of the nostrils, he was size of a thumb, and then he started getting bigger and bigger, and then everybody's figuring out, and then they see, oh, this is actually my Lord, because his eyes were so beautiful as the lotus. Yeah, it was so beautiful. And think about Vamanadev. This is like a 5-year-old boy. This is like, if you've been to Mayapur or Vrindavan, you have all these like small Gurukuli boys coming in. You know, it's like for the Mangalarati. And they're like so effulgent and so beautiful. And this is the Lord himself. And think about how beautiful he might have been. And everybody was just captivated by his beauty. Yes, continue.
Text 27. Thus offering a proper reception to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is always beautiful to the liberated souls, Bali Maharaj worshipped him by washing his lotus feet.
Actually, this is just when we are reading this, I was thinking, it's qualifying, Srimad Bhagavatam is qualifying, who is always beautiful to the liberated souls, Because we were talking about Varahadev, and Hiranyaksha didn't really see him as beautiful. Right? He was actually like saying, you bore. he was seeing him as a gory animal. But for the devotees, he was saying, wow, this is my Lord. So this is the Brahma Samhita saying, right? Premanjana churita bhakti vilochanena. You need to have the ointment of love anointed in your eyes to actually see the Lord. It's not easy.
Text 28. Lord Shiva, the best of demigods, who carries on his forehead the emblem of the moon, receives on his head with great devotion the Ganges water emanating from the toe of Vishnu. Being aware of religious principle, Bali Maharaj knew this. Consequently, following in the footsteps of Lord Shiva, he also placed on his head the water that he had washed the Lord's lotus feet.
Yeah. Prabhupada's purport to this verse, we actually only have two purports in this section. And here he speaks about how Bali Maharaj, who would actually become a Mahajan, right? We have 12 Mahajans, right? 12 Mahajans, among which Bali Maharaj is one. And here another great Mahajan is being referred. Who is? Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva is another great Mahajan. He is Vaishnavanam Yata Shambho. He is the greatest devotee of the Lord. And then he is following in his footsteps, and therefore he is a Mahajan, he says. Prabhupada would always quote this verse of Mahajano yena gatas sapanta. We always have to follow in the footsteps of Mahajans. And Bali Maharaj eventually becomes a Mahajan, but you can see the attributes and characteristics that he has of how he is trying to follow the precedent set by Lord Shiva. And the example that the Bhagavatam gives is how Lord Shiva bore the water that comes out of the lotus feet of the Lord, which would actually happen in this pastime, right, where Vamanadev becomes Trivikrama. He takes 3 huge steps and he pierces the covering of the universe, and then the Ganges from the spiritual world comes, and then it's too heavy and Lord Shiva bears it on his head. But this is Prabhupada's purport on how we have to follow the great Mahajans. And Bali Maharaj was actually doing it. He had bathed the lotus feet of the Lord, and now, following the footsteps of Lord Shiva, he's actually taking those the water that bathed the lotus feet of Vamanadev and applied it on his head. And at this point, he didn't even know he was the Supreme Lord yet. This is the point. He was still following in the footsteps of Mahajan. It's very easy when we know, oh, this is the Supreme Lord, right, for us to do it. But when we see a 5-year-old boy, think about it. How many of us are going to bathe the lotus feet of a 5-year-old boy and take the water from the feet of the 5-year-old boy and apply it on our heads? This was Bali Maharaj, who was actually the king of all 3 worlds, which is very difficult to do for such people in high positions, right? He basically commands everybody under the 3 worlds, and yet he was humble enough to actually take the water from the lotus feet of a 5-year-old boy and put it on his head, because that is what is following religious principles, right? This is what it's saying, is that being aware of religious principles, Bali Maharaj knew this, and therefore he did this act. Okay, let's continue.
Bali Maharaj then said to Lord Vamandev, O Brahmana, I offer you my hearty welcome and my respectful obeisances. Please let us know what we may do for you. We think of you as the personified austerity of the great Brahmana sages.
Yes. This is the duty of everybody actually, especially of a Kshatriya. When a Brahmana enters, is to actually ask what the Brahmana wants. Can you read the next translation, please?
O my Lord, because you have kindly arrived at our home, all my forefathers are satisfied, our family and entire dynasty have been sanctified, and the sacrifice we are performing is now complete because of your presence.
Text 31. O son of a Brahman, today the fire of sacrifice is ablaze according to the injunction of the Shastra, and I have been freed from all the sinful reactions of my life by the water that has washed your lotus feet. O my Lord, by the touch of your small lotus feet, the entire surface of the world has been sanctified.
O son of a Brahmana, it appears that you have come here to ask me of something. Therefore, whatever you want, you may take from me. O best of those who are worshipable, you may take from me a cow, gold, a furnished house, palatable food and drink, the daughter of a Brahmana for your wife, prosperous villages, horses, elephants, chariots, or whatever you desire.
In the Bhaktivedanta purports of the 8th canto, 18th chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled the Lord Vamanadev, the dwarf incarnation. So this is setting it up nicely for the next chapter on what Vamanadev will actually ask. All of us know what he's going to ask. But let's focus on text 20. Let's go to the Sanskrit. Shrutvashvamedairyajamanamurjitam balim bhrigunamupkalpitaistatha jagamatra kilasara sambrito bharena gham sannamayam pade pade. Shrutva shvamedair yajamanamurjitam balim bhrigunamupkalpitaistata jagamatra kilasara sambrito bharena gham sannamayan pade pade. Okay, please chant. Shritvashvamedhairyajamanamurjitam balim bhrigunamupkalpitaistata jagamatra kilasara sambrito bharena gham sannamayan pade pade. Mataji, somebody? Shritva swamedhairyajamanamurjitam balim bhrigunamupkalpitaistata jagamatra kilasara sambrito bharena gham sannamayan pade pade. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. This is the word for word. Shrutva, after hearing. Ashwamedhai, by Ashwamedha sacrifices. Yajamanam, the performer. Urjitam, very glorious. Balim, Bali Maharaj. Bhrigunam, under the guidance of Brahmanas born in the Bhrigu dynasty. Upakalpitai, performed. Tata, from that place. Jagama, went. Tatra, there. Akila Sara Sambrita, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the essence of all creation. Bharena, with the weight. Gham, the earth. Sannamayan, depressing. Pade pade, at every step. Translation. When the Lord heard that Bali Maharaj was performing Ashwamedha sacrifices under the patronage of Brahmanas belonging to the Bhrigu dynasty, the Supreme Lord, who is full in every respect, proceeded there to show his mercy to Bali Maharaj. By his weight, he pushed down the earth with every step. Purport. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is Akila Sara Sambrita, In other words, he is the proprietor of everything essential in this material world. Thus, although the Lord was going to Bali Maharaj to beg something, he is always complete and has nothing to beg from anyone. Indeed, he is so powerful that in his full opulence, he pressed down the surface of earth at every step. So on the surface, it might seem like the Lord, who has taken the form of a 5-year-old Brahmana, is going to Bali Maharaj to beg for something. This is how the Brahmanas act. They don't own anything. They go beg for charity and they survive with whatever they get. And Vamanadev, being a son of a Brahmana, who's Kashyapa, and he himself has become a Brahmana now. He just got a sacred thread ceremony. He is going to Bali Maharaj's assembly, where this Ashwamedha Yajna is happening. And externally, it seems like he's a 5-year-old boy. But then the Bhagavatam here is describing how by his every step, he is actually depressing the earth, is pushing the earth down. Think about it. Think about how difficult that is, just to push down the earth. If we can try, with all our weight, try to push down the earth, is it possible? It's actually impossible. And yet, just by this 5-year-old boy walking, we see this happening. So, Prabhupada therefore is emphasizing that he may look like a 5-year-old boy, but he is Akila Sara Samvrita. This is the description that Srimad Bhagavatam gives to Vamanadev in this verse. And what it means is that he is the proprietor of everything essential in this material world. So, this is who Krishna is, and yet the natural propensity of all of us in this world is to think that we are the proprietors. Right? Everything belongs to me. Right? It actually starts with this. Rishabdev says, Janasya mohoyam aham mameti. This is our thinking that it is me, mine, everything is for me in this world. In fact, Krishna in the Gita speaks about his external energies, right? Bhumi rapo nalo vayu khammano buddhirevacha ahankaram iti emme bhinna prakritirashtada. He is very clear in articulating that everything that is there in this material world is just a separated energy of mind. But in the very next verse, he talks about the quality of people in this world. You know what the next verse is after this? After Bhumi Rapo Nalavayu? Yeah. Apareyam itastvanyam prakritim viddhi me param jiva bhuta mahabaho edam dhariti jagat. He says, beyond this separated energy of mind, there is something that is higher than this. Apareyam itastvanyam. And he's basically referring to the spirit souls who are higher than his material energy. But he describes them as prakritim viddhi me param. They're trying to exploit this material nature. All of us in this world are trying to do exactly that, right? How can I use this world to exploit this world to satisfy myself? This is because of the very mentality where we think we are the lord of this world. Everything, lord of all that I purview, Prabhupada would say. We think everything belongs to me. And therefore, from that mentality, we start thinking, I can use this for whatever purpose I want. I can go and exploit it in whichever way I want as long as it can satisfy me. But the problem with this attitude is that it is not going to bring us any happiness. Because the very thought process of doing all this is thinking if I do something by exploiting resources at my command, I can become happy. This is why we try to do all of this. But Krishna says you can never become happy in this perspective. Because Krishna gives his famous peace formula in the Gita. Does anybody know what the peace formula is? Yeah. Bhoktaram yajna tapasam sarvaloka maheshuram suhridam sarvabhutanam gyatva mam shantim richati. He says one who knows this is actually peaceful. And further later he'll say if you're not peaceful, how can you be happy? The prerequisite for becoming happy is for you to be peaceful first. If you're peaceful, then the next step is you can become happy. All of us are trying to become happy, but we're not even having peace in the first place. And Krishna says for you to actually become peaceful, you have to know these three things. which is Bhoktaram Yajna Tapasam. We're performing so many Yajna and Tapasa, which is similar to here, right? What Bali Maharaj is doing is a great sacrifice. And all of us also do it in our own ways. Here it might be a huge sacrificial arena where you're pouring ghee into the fire and creating all this sacrifice. But all of us sacrifice on a day-to-day basis in our lives. We wake up early, go to work really hard, 8, 10, 12 hours. So much sacrifice we do, we try to, for our family and so many things. But we try to think that all that sacrifice and austerities that we go through is for our own enjoyment. I'm doing this so that I can get the salary and so that I can enjoy using that salary for myself. Right? This is our mentality. But Krishna is saying, no, you are not the actual enjoyer. I am the actual enjoyer of all austerities and sacrifices. And he says, Sarva Loka Maheshwaram. Now, this is the proprietorship, right? Krishna is actually the proprietor of all the worlds in this world, in this creation. And yet we think, I am the proprietor. And therefore, we get into this very problematic situations where, hey, I am telling this person something. Why is this person not listening? He should actually listen to me. This is actually mine. Why am I not getting it? So this sense of proprietorship is so strong that it actually creates a fear in us. The fear of losing also, even if we get something. We have figured out how do I safeguard this more and more and more. It's not just the hankering of getting it, being the proprietor, but also the problems that come along after we've actually acquired something. But Krishna says, no. You think you might be the proprietor, but you're actually not the proprietor. I am the actual proprietor. And Suhridam Sarva Bhutanam. And he says, I am the well-wisher of every living entity. This is another thing also that we we think of, is that I am the well-wisher of everybody. I'm trying to do something good. I'm asking him to do something better. Why is this person not doing it? We get upset by it. But if we can understand that Krishna is the actual enjoyer, Krishna is the actual proprietor, and Krishna is the actual well-wisher, Krishna says, such a person, Gyatva Mam, one who knows this, Shantam Richati, who actually attain peace. Right? And look at this scenario of Bali Maharaj, where he is actually the proprietor of all three worlds. This is his position. He's become the king of heaven. And yet, he has this one quality that most proprietors don't have. When you actually own something, when you think you're the proprietor, you have this quality of being proud. But Bali Maharaj, although being the proprietor, recognizes where all of this is coming from. At this point, he probably doesn't recognize it's all coming from the Lord, but he at least recognizes that he has come to this position because of the Brahmanas who have actually guided him. And therefore, when Vamanadev comes into this assembly, he is ready to be humble and take up this position where he is ready to wash the lotus feet of the Lord. And you see what results he gets as a result of this gratitude, this humility, this quality of humility that he has. Is where when everything is taken away from him, he still feels not so distraught about it. In fact, we will see that his spiritual master will come and warn him. You please don't do this. He's actually going to take everything away from you. And yet, Bali Maharaj was not worried about it at that point. This is the quality that brings about this, right? When you're proud of something, it's very crushing when you lose it. But when you're humble about it, on how you have things and actually know your position, you actually know who we are. We actually know who we are, what our position. We don't have this inflated sense of who we are. We actually know our position for what it is. So, this is what Bali Maharaj gets in return. And this entire chapter deals with this, this entire canto actually deals with this theme of surrender and making ourselves not the proprietor. And this is how it starts, right? The canto starts with the story of whom? Gajendra. And this was his attitude also, right? I am the king of the elephants. I can do everything. I'm the proprietor. It could not be of things, right? Like Bali Maharaj, he's the proprietor of all three worlds, the wealth and things. But his proprietorship was his strength. He was thinking, I possess immense strength, and what can anybody do to me? Throughout, we see this theme, and which culminates in the story of Bali Maharaj, who actually is the personification of surrender. So the step is to first recognize that we are not the proprietor, right? So that we can at least be peaceful. Actually, it brings us a lot of peace when you think about it. Trying to be in a position that we are not actually, which is not our identity, brings so much problems and distress in our life. If you can just put that weight off and say, okay, Krsna, you are the proprietor, you figure it out. I'll try to do what I can, but you figure it out. You are my well-wisher, you figure it out. Instead of me trying to figure things out, it brings about a lot of peace. And from that perspective, how it changes to happiness is that we actually recognize that Krsna is the proprietor of everything and surrender to him. This is the point, right? When Lord Vamana becomes Trivikrama, he asks for 3 steps, right? And in the first step, he has measured all the upper planetary systems. With the second step, he's measured all the lower planetary systems. And then he's still asking, where should I place my 3rd step? And then Bali Maharaj says, you can put it on my head, my Lord. And the Acharyas comment that even when the Lord measured all the upper worlds, right? Bali Maharaj was part of it, right? He had measured everything. He said, I own all of this, which means everything that's there belongs to me. But Bali Maharaj himself thought that I'm still not part of it, even at that point. And finally he recognizes, oh, I actually have to surrender myself to the Lord. And then he surrenders to the Lord and the Lord puts his lotus feet on his head. When I was in India in summer, there is a beautiful temple in Kanchipuram called Ulagalanda Perumal. This is Ulagalanda means one who measured the universe. This is Ulagalanda Perumal temple. It's one of the Divya Desams of the Sri Vaishnava Sampradaya. It's incredible because it's a 36 feet deity of Lord Trivikrama. He's not Vamana anymore at that point. He has his leg there. I mean, to just take darshan is just incredible, stunning. And then you only see 2 legs though. one foot measuring all the 3 worlds, up and down and everything. It's symbolic. And on the small corner in the bottom, you can see the head of Bali Maharaj, where the Lord is actually placing his foot on Bali Maharaj's head. It's just his head visible. It's on the floor. And then Lord Vamana Dev is actually Trivikrama is placing his foot on Bali Maharaj. So we might think at this point Bali Maharaj is at a very horrible position, right? He's lost everything. He's actually somebody's placing your foot on your head. Think about it. It's actually very difficult to accept somebody's foot on your head. It's the lowest position that we can ever get into in this world. And yet, when that surrender is to the Supreme Lord, you can see what it results in. We lose nothing. In fact, we gain everything by such an act of surrendering ourselves to the Lord. So when we recognize the Lord as the Master, with some quality of humility, that's when we can actually recognize this, right? If we don't have this quality of humility, we think, I am the Lord and Master. But when we have this quality of humility that Bali Maharaj expresses here, then you can actually see, oh, there is actually somebody higher than me. And then we can actually surrender to such a person. And when we surrender to such a person, we might think we are losing things, right? The Prabhupada gives this example. I actually asked this question of how do you think is a life of a street dog and a dog that has an owner? On the surface, it might seem like the street dog is wandering very freely. It has all the freedom that it wants, whereas the dog at home is actually listening to the master. He's saying, if you ask it to sit, it sits. If it asks you to stand up, if you ask it to walk, it walks. But if you look closely, the life of a street dog is actually very pitiful. It's not figuring out its food. It's trying to go and get its food. And when it goes near food, people are actually throwing stones at it, trying to drive it away. It's trying to defend itself from so many problems that come by being on the street. Whereas the dog that has the master is served everything on a platter. Is taken care of so nicely. So on the surface, we might see that surrendering ourselves to Krishna might actually be very problematic. I'm losing all my freedom, this sense of ownership and proprietorship that I might have. But yet, it's actually very counterintuitive. That is where we have the maximum freedom to do things. Because that is our actual position. When we try to act as God, as masters, it actually doesn't give us any happiness. When we actually serve our actual master by surrendering to him, that is what gives us happiness. In fact, it goes a step further, where we're trying to serve the Lord, and if our surrender is so incredible, the Lord actually becomes our servant. The Lord surrenders to the words of his devotee. This is who we are surrendering to, right? Because in this world, when we surrender to people, we actually are very apprehensive because people try to exploit us. That is why this nature is there in us. That, okay, I've had these bad experiences in the past where I'm trying to actually take the humble position, but people are actually trampling on me, trying to exploit me. But Krishna has the exact opposite quality. Although he can be all of this, he is the proprietor, he is the controller of everything, he owns everything. Isha vasyam idam sarvam, right? Actually, this is it. We think we are the proprietors, but the Ishopanishad says everything belongs to Krishna. And yet, the nature of Krishna is that he's so indebted by even a small thing that we do to him. Even very little thing. Like Sudama Brahmana, he brings like flat rice, right? And this is even something that is borrowed from his neighbor. And then Krishna is so happy. Oh, give me more, give me more. And Rukmini Devi had to come and stop him. You're going to give everything. I might have to go and serve him if you keep doing this. And yet, for the devotees who are even more surrendered, like the gopis, Krishna doesn't even know what he can give in return. He says, just take your service itself as a token of my gratitude, as a token of my appreciation, because I don't know what to give you, because you've given me so much. This is Krishna's mentality, right? So when we lose this sense of proprietorship and try to surrender to Krishna, and as we progress further and further in our surrender to Krishna, it actually is a very, very beautiful experience. This is where our constitutional position is. This is what our constitutional position is. We've forgotten all of that. The entire process of devotional service is just to reawaken this. This is our life. What we're doing here is just horrible when we compare, when we think of all the things that we're missing in the spiritual world. So this verse is talking about that specific quality of how it's warning us right in the beginning, right? You might think Vamanadev is cheating Bali Maharaj of everything and he's taking everything from him. But right in the beginning, before it even happens, Bhagavatam is telling us, don't think Krishna is taking things away, because practically everything belongs to him. What he's taking away is the sense of proprietorship from Bali Maharaj, where he thinks, I am the Lord of all three worlds. So those are some of the thoughts on this section in the verse. If there are any questions or comments or reflections, we can take. Yes. Mataji. 1, 2, and then Nitai. Yeah, the mic is there. Then we could. Yeah.
Thank you, Prabhu. I was thinking about this surrender thing. Like, I was trying to compare the material surrender, like we do it against many leaders and personalities, and versus Krishna surrender, where Krishna is not expecting anything, like even if you surrender or not surrender. Yes. He is still your well-wisher. Yes. He is still taking care of all the living entities, everything. And that surrender he's saying is only for your own good, like a child, we expect he listens to us, right? Yes. Versus a material surrender, because there is, if you don't listen, they're not going to do anything. Yeah. I was thinking in my mind, like, what is the difference in a dawn, if I may use that term, like you're surrendering, he's taking care of. The moment you stop listening or caring, they become your enemy. So, the Lord is so merciful.
That's actually a very nice point. Thank you. Because there is difference between whom we surrender to, right? If we surrender to people who are unworthy of our surrender, then it actually results in things that might not be good for us. But if we surrender to the Lord, then it's a completely different story, because this is actually one of the quality. So we don't surrender to the Lord directly, right? Whom do we surrender to? To the spiritual master. Because Krishna is not personally present, we surrender to the spiritual master. And one of the qualities that the Nectar of Instruction says is actually the minimum quality of a spiritual master is that he should have controlled his senses, right? Vacho vegam, manasakroda vegam, jihva vegam, mudropasta vegam. Etan veganyo vishayetadira, sarvam apimam pratyavim sasishyat. Why is this qualification present? It's because that person actually is not expecting anything from you. That he's controlled all his senses. He's actually not doing things so that he can get something from you. This is the bare minimum qualification of a spiritual master, right? But when we surrender to people who have not controlled their senses, which means they're actually going to expect something out of us when doing something in return for us, right? Therefore, when we stop reciprocating in terms that they want us to reciprocate in, this is the point. We might be reciprocating in ways that we think is right, but they're looking for something specific. Then it becomes a very problematic situation. But the opposite is true for Krishna, where he's Atma Rama. He doesn't need anything. And yet Krishna is so grateful that we're doing something for him. Right? This is his quality of his character. Thank you. Such a nice point.
I wanted to thank you for the point of understanding who the real proprietor of things are. Detachment, true detachment, really brings about peace.
Yes.
I was thinking about, in my life, I've really, trying to share Krishna consciousness with others. You do the best you can to try to influence, right? You try to speak the words that you heard from your spiritual master. You try to share this wisdom that we got. But if you have that sense of detachment that you're not the proprietor, then you know that Krishna is in their heart, and it's between them and Krishna. You can only do your part.
Yes.
And what I've come to really rely on is that maybe there's some words you share, and then after the conversation's over, who knows what Krishna's doing in their heart? What's like, what situations in their life that are going. And so we don't become full of anxiety or stress when we don't feel like somebody's understanding what we're saying.
Yeah.
You just do the best you can, and you say, I know Krishna's in your heart. He's the proprietor of this person. This is the
yes.
And you can let it go. It's really helpful in books too.
Yeah, I mean that's a really nice point. From the perspective of the other person, right? It depends on what they're doing. But from our own perspective also, when we are trying to speak, Krishna says, "Dadami buddhi yogam tam." I give you the intelligence. So we can also think that it's not me, my knowledge and everything that I've acquired over time that has actually moved this person or bring this person towards Krishna. It is also the mercy of the Lord, right? Therefore we pray to the Lord so that we can speak the right words that can actually touch the person's heart. Then it's up to the person and Krishna also. So from our perspective also, I mean the sense of proprietorship is in so many different ways, right? The proprietorship of my knowledge, the proprietorship of the words that I can speak, my language, my eloquence, so many things that we think, of my beauty, so many things that we think will influence people, but ultimately it's Krishna within the heart, right? He is the actual Guru who is actually guiding us. Thank you. That's a nice point. Yes, Mataji.
Hi, Krishna Prabhu. Thank you for the class. I was thinking on the same point, Bhuktaram Yajnatapasam, it's a peace formula. But at the same time, I feel that, this is my understanding, Prabhu, so please correct me. Where to take it, where to leave it. Like, we are supposed to do things in devotional life for the deities and for the devotees. Somebody is sick, and I feel, okay, Krishna will anyway take care and let me not cook, not serve. So for me, I see a line of indifference there, where I'm saying Krishna is anyway ultimately going to take care. So why do I do anything? Because he is the proprietor, and he knows the best of this person. What do I do by cooking or doing anything for that person? So I also I feel the fear of being, indifferent. At the same time, we see this when Juhu temple was being built, how much Prabhupada did. And like all of it, at the point when everybody around him told him that, let it go, but Prabhupada didn't. Because he is a pure devotee, for him it was not a fight of ego. For him, he is purely doing it for Krishna. But, for Kanishta like me, it might come a point when it's the ego, like Krishna does it or I do it. So, those are the thoughts. It's like a spread of thoughts. I don't know how to bring it together, but if you got whatever I'm saying, please enlighten.
So the proprietorship is not in the act itself most of the times. The proprietorship comes from owning the result of the action. That's where most of the time it kicks in. I'm doing something and I own the result of what I do, is where the proprietorship usually comes in. So we should not stop ourselves from acting. Krishna is very clear in the Gita, right? This is what Arjun wanted to do, is that I want to stop acting and I want to go to the forest and just be myself. I don't want to act. But all of us have a dharma. All of us have a duty to perform. We have to perform that duty. Krishna is very clear about it. Based on our nature, we are parents, or we are spouses, or we are children, we are sons and daughters of our parents. And we are, in so many different ways, we have the duty that we have to perform. Or we are friends, or so many things. We should not stop ourselves from performing the duty, but leave the result up to Krishna. This is where it gets difficult, right? I've put in all the hard work, I'm not getting the result, and will I continue doing it? This is where I think the sense of, this is why the Vaishnavas are not indifferent, right? In fact, they go above and beyond their capacity to do things. But they are not fixated on what happens to that action. I'll go and try to say the message of Krishna, like Prabhu was saying. But it's up to Krishna and the devotee whether they take up that message or not. I'll go and try to help that person, but not with the motive that that person will do something for me in return. That's where the proprietorship kicks in. Right?
Thank you.
Yes.
This is faith in the mode of 3 different modes. The mode of ignorance would be, I have nothing here to do. It's all Krishna. Therefore, I step back. That's ignorance. We don't. Passion is, I have to do this. This is counting on me. If I don't do it, then what's going to happen?
Yeah.
So there's this attachment to the result. In the mode of goodness, we still act, right? We still act. We still do the best we can to influence. We still do our duty, but we are completely dependent on that. The result is not up to us.
Yes.
And if we even take it further, that result is actually Krishna's, mercy.
Yes.
And so then we go up to the pure mode of goodness.
Yeah. In fact, you see the opposite in devotees, right? They actually go above and beyond in doing things. In fact, it doesn't become indifference. It becomes on the other side of incredible compassion towards other living entities. As we progress in devotional service, we see that I'm not doing enough. This was Prabhupada's mentality, that I'm not doing enough. I have to take this message of Krishna all over the world, and he didn't rest for even a second. But the sense of proprietorship was completely abandoned, right? It was not there at all. I'm doing it for Krishna, and ultimately it's up to him on how things are going to happen. Because Prabhupada was trying it right from the beginning, right? It's not that he achieved success immediately. He was going in the streets of Delhi, getting heat strokes, being run over by a bull. It was just incredible. And yet he was not doing it for himself. That's what kept him going. And even when he got everything, like he would travel in a Rolls Royce and stay in huge mansions, it was still not for him. It was still all for Krishna. So
I wanted to mention one more thing, if I may, Prabhuji, that we each have our nature, and we have a certain amount of passion, goodness, and ignorance. And each of these, it's not that we try to go outside of our nature. We try to live in our nature. So it's very conducive to some people that they are like, I've got to do this. It's their nature.
Yeah.
So that's how their service is, and it's really good. And you could even say that Krishna is so kind in Krishna consciousness that one thinks, oh, what can I do? It's Krishna. That even that is like at least Krishna consciousness, and Krishna will, help that person even,
Yeah.
It's really amazing. So it's not we really need to see what our nature is and how we do things and how our service with Krishna, he reciprocates with us. It's different for each one.
yeah. And in the beginning stages, we definitely need somebody to guide us on that. Drishta had something to say. Oh, okay.
So the time factor is what I'm asking about. Sometimes I see that we are limited in what we're trying to accomplish in Krishna consciousness, and we get frustrated. I feel like some frustration about that. Do you have any advice about that?
Actually, we are limited. Once we figure that out, the frustration goes out of the window, I feel. We cannot accomplish everything that we want to accomplish unless Krishna is empowering us and the spiritual master is empowering us. We try our best and then say, okay, this is what Krishna wants me to do. Right? Not without trying, but we keep trying and say, okay, this is what Krishna is wanting me to do. I'll keep doing it, and once he's pleased, he might give what we want. Yes. Yes, Narahari. Can somebody pass the mic?
I just was reflecting on that same point and was reminded of Rupa Goswami's instructions in the Nectar of Instruction, where he says, Utsaha Nischaya Dhairyat. So
yes,
one of the most important qualities is having patience in Krishna consciousness.
Yes.
And I remember listening to one of the acharyas in our movement, and he said, in the initial stages of Krishna consciousness, when you make some progress, you think that it is because of my effort. But when you actually make a little bit advancement, and when you continue to practice devotional service, you will realize that as you make advancement, it's nothing me. It is completely mercy, 100%.
Yes.
So we need to have that faith and also be patient that if we want to accomplish something, we need to have that mercy. And it all comes through grace, not by our...
That's a very nice point. Utsaha Nischaya Dhairyat, right? Without patience, actually, it's very hard to sustain the enthusiasm. And we can see that in Prabhupada's case also, right? He was trying to do so much before coming to America, he could have lost his enthusiasm. Saying, okay, things are not moving as I thought it should move. My spiritual master asked me to go to the West. I'm not even getting a ticket. He was trying to go to Japan. He couldn't go to Japan. You know, the light of the Bhagavad conference. But yet he was patient and determined, right? Dhairyat. He was completely patient and determined, and then eventually success followed. Yes.
It's called humble enthusiasm.
Yes.
I'm really appreciating Mother Kunti's desire to get there. You know, I hear that. Like, this world is such, it's really tough. Like, we want to become Krishna conscious. We want to love Krishna. We want to serve him. And there's just so many impediments. And it's so tough. There's just so much suffering, you know. And so I wanted to share, Mother Kunti, like some Saradavan on a Lita Loka, right? Where this is a birth and death. We're suffering this, and the spiritual master is giving us, at least cooling us off enough. He's giving us some shade. He's giving us some that cooling of that suffering. So if we take shelter of the lotus feet of the spiritual master, it's not that the desire and that suffering of being separated from Krishna is not there, but it's just enough to like cool us down and be like, it's okay. We're still going. We're still going. We can do it. I hope that helps.
Okay, I think we have run way over time. We should stop here. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Vancha kalpatarubhyasya kripa sindhubhye vacha, patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Anantakoti Vaishnav Vrinda ki jai.